We all remember the case of then high school student Nicholas Sandmann. He was smeared, slandered, besmirched by the media mob as a hateful racist because he was wearing a MAGA hat. And now Sandmann has published an op-ed on dailymail.com offering his support to Rittenhouse, slamming the media for spewing their endless lies about Kyle. At the end of the piece, Sandmann addresses Rittenhouse directly, writing, quote, "At this time, I would like to use my platform to let Kyle know that I'm here for you. And if you would ever like to reach out to me, about the only person our age to have an idea of how the media is treating you, and you don't have to face this alone." Joining us now for an exclusive interview is Nicholas Sandmann. Nicholas, thank you for joining us. I remember at the time what you were going through, and I remember that moment. And then the facts started coming out that everything that was said about you, that you had walked over to this Native American activist, for example, that you had in fact, that you were a racist. You had the same false accusations leveled against you. And I remember thinking, when the facts came out, you handled this as perfectly, I felt, as any kid could. My question to you is, what is the impact on the psyche, on the mind, being thrust into the public eye like that, being called things that you are not, things that are not true? And then I want to ask you what you think Kyle should do.
Well, it's terrible, Sean, and I'll tell you why. As a 17-year-old in Kyle's case, and mine 16, your mind is still developing. And so to deal with an overload of stress where you have this feeling that half of the country, hundreds of millions of people hate you for something that you were innocent of, but how you were painted, it can do a lot to you mentally. It takes a very strong will to be able to resist that and keep a level head. And I know that Kyle is probably dealing with that right now.
You said in this article, the parallels between me and Kyle Rittenhouse are impossible not to draw, and that you think that Kyle Rittenhouse should sue outlets to, quote, hold the media accountable. I know that you have entered into settlements that I'm sure there are non-disclosure agreements you can't talk about. I know CNN is one, and there are ongoing cases, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
That's correct. I'm currently still suing 6 media outlets. And
tell us what you think and why you think Kyle should hold the media accountable. And let me ask you this. I would like your opinion based on Joe Biden's tweet. Do you think he should also look at the idea of suing Joe Biden?
Well, I think he should sue the media, but it's really a personal call that's up to him. In January, it'll be 3 years since everything happened at the March for Life, and I'm still looking at another 2 years until the cases that go to trial are resolved. So it's really a personal call for him. I know he has a lot on his plate on whether he wants to entrench himself in this, but on the topic of Joe Biden, I've heard a lot of debate about it, but I think plain and simple that unfortunately calling someone a racist or a white supremacist is an opinion protected by the First Amendment. Personally, I know it because many of the claims that we labeled as defamatory were not let in by the judge in federal court. And so I would like to see him go after Joe Biden. I'd like to see where that goes. But I don't think Kyle's in the case where he can be making lawsuits just to see what happens. He doesn't have the luxury of suing everyone just to see if any of them land.
You know, it's interesting. I learned a lot, and your first attorney was Lynn Wood, who I've known for years, and he was Richard Jewell's attorney, and I was a local radio host in Atlanta at the time. And a big article came out in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and it said that in that case, Richard Jewell fit the profile of the lone bomber because he lives with his mother. I didn't know at the time that Richard Jewell was listening to my radio program. And I said, excuse me, just because he lives with his mom does not make him a domestic terrorist. It turns out he was not responsible. In the end, he was a hero. It has served me well because I don't rush to judgment. This show doesn't do that. We allow for the presumption of innocence and due process, as we did, but frankly, in your case, I don't know if you watched any of the coverage, and we were right on Ferguson, Missouri, Cambridge Police. We were right on Duke Lacrosse. We were right on UVA. We were right on Freddie Gray in Baltimore. We're right on the Russia hoax for 3 to 4 years of never-ending conspiracy theories and lies. You have the same group of people, Nicholas, that always rush to judgment, never afford due process or the presumption of innocence. That's why I believe you are right in doing what you're doing, because this has to end, because they're destroying people's lives. You're a young man, and I can tell just from this interview, this has not destroyed your life, but it could have. I'm sure you had many difficult days in the process of being labeled the world's biggest racist.
Yes, it was terrible for multiple months, and while I don't speak about it often, it has been hard to kind of come back from the state I was in. I did watch a lot of Fox and CNN, MSNBC. I watched everything after the confrontation happened, and it was like a car crash you aren't able to look away from. My eyes were glued to the TV, watching my character get torn apart. And I know Kyle will face that journey of kind of getting back to the person that he was before. Of course, he won't ever be the same person again, but it definitely is a struggle.
You pointed out this is a big problem with the news media in this country, and you took them on, and it looks like, although you can't talk about it, that you're winning. And I would imagine you have a very strong case in each instance. And I would predict probably a very positive outcome for you, and you urge Kyle to consider this process as well. How has it changed you? Because it certainly, you seem stronger as a result of it. A lot of people probably would have crumbled and never recovered. You seem to have recovered. Yeah,
well, the biggest thing that happened to me, and what I've always said, is I became an adult at 16, and I had to learn very quickly that, you know, the moment I left my house, there could be a camera on me, and I've learned to look around and look over my shoulder in public. Not everyone likes me, and it doesn't matter where I am, I still get recognized by people all over even today. So it makes you, unfortunately, grow up in a lot of ways that most 18-year-olds don't want to do. And that's just the unfortunate reality of what happens when the mainstream media attacks you in the way that they did to me and to Kyle.
I don't think you could have handled it more perfectly, and I applaud the fact that you were able to withstand that, grow, and obviously you're moving on with your life. I do hope that Kyle Rittenhouse, you offered him an opportunity to reach out to you, and I think you're right. You're probably the only person in that age group that would really understand what he's been through. Nicholas Sandmann, we wish you all the best in your future, and thank you for being with us.